what exactly is the story of Argentina's economic development, or actually catastrophic dissolution, over the course of the last 40 years?
Well, we need to understand that Argentina is the most Western nation in Latin America. Okay, the population is mostly European. That's why people were crazy when they won the World Cup, because there were no black players in the Argentinian soccer team, and they were being attacked for that. But the reality is that Argentina was the nation with the highest per capita income in the world in 1895 in the world, and previous to the First World War, the 6% average GDP growth that they achieved for almost 50 years is the fastest economic growth rate in recorded history. And this was not only commodities, it was also industrial production. Argentina managed to have the growth rate of Germany and Japan in the early 20th century in terms of industrial production. And then what happened? Collectivist ideas, socialist ideas, and especially fascist ideas, which is basically another brand of socialism, started to gain traction. And then General Juan Domingo Perón was elected president in 1946. And since then, they managed to transform the complete Argentinian culture and institutions, a little bit like the takeover you are seeing in the United States with universities, with corporations and things like that, with a woke agenda. It's the same thing that happened in Argentina 100 years ago. And it took them until Javier Milei, and I hope he's successful, to recover from that. So now they're one of the poorest countries. They have 150% inflation rate, and have 50% of the population living under the poverty line. This is extremely catastrophic for a nation that has so many resources and human capital. So this is not only the past 4 decades. This is a century of decline, and Javier Milei is trying to bring back this golden age of Argentinian history, which, by the way, was to a great extent the result of the constitution of Juan Bautista Alberdi, who was a huge fan of the American founding fathers, especially of Thomas Jefferson. And he applied this philosophy, this libertarian philosophy, to the Argentinian constitution from 1853. And that was the reason why they had so much prosperity. So that tells you something about which ideas work and which ideas don't work.
So, Axel, for those of us in the West who are watching the economy of Argentina, the reality is that the Peronist philosophy looks an awful lot like sort of the modern left-wing economic philosophy. It's not pure socialism in the sense that Venezuela is nationalizing all industry. It's more that private industry exists, but it's heavily regulated, it's heavily subsidized. There are huge protections that are put in place for friends of the government. The idea is that all control of the economy is sort of command and control, but allowing for private ownership. It looks a lot like sort of the Nazi corporatist model, a lot of focus on autarky and everything being produced in country and trade deficits as opposed to open and free trade. And then when you get in trouble, you just inflate your way out of it. And I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing the left-wing press in the United States and abroad freaking out about Milei's election. This should be a moment where they look and they say, well, this is actually quite good for the West. I mean, Milei, unlike a huge number of politicians in South and Latin America, he's openly calling for a close relationship with the United States, with Europe, with Israel, with allies of the West. And he's openly saying that he does not want to have governmental relations with communists like China or socialists like Brazil. He really wants to be part of the West. And what you're seeing is this sort of standoffishness from the press and from some in the internationalist left in the United States and abroad. It really is an amazing spectacle when you have somebody who's begging to be part of the Western economy, begging to be part of the Western alliance. And everybody's kind of like, well, but we do like Lula.
Well, because even though Lula is a corrupt socialist who should be in jail, the thing is that Milei represents a massive defeat for these leftist ideas and the leftist ideology of corporatism. It's fascism. In reality, Perón was someone who admired Mussolini, and the system that he imported was not the central planned economy of the communists, but this fusion between the corporate interest and the government, which is what we are seeing increasingly throughout the West. And now I've lived in Argentina, and I know Javier Milei very well. We have done many things together, and he is basically representing the complete opposite philosophy. So the ideas that were brought to Argentina that defined the social evolution in the last century were all the same ideas that you're being taught at universities all over the West. Socialism, Keynesianism, this sort of ESG type of ideas where government and the corporations have to work together in order to achieve different things. And this is what destroyed Argentina. And so I don't think people who criticize him on the media, mainstream media, really care about Argentinians, that 50% of them are living under the poverty rate, and the poverty line. And they just don't want to see him succeed, because if he succeeds, this will be like a second time where a developing nation shows the world the way to go. The first time, by the way, was Chile, which set the stage for the reforms of Reagan and Thatcher then in the United States and in the UK. And this is why the left hates Chile so much. At least in what's its history in the economic system. So I think they hate Milei and they will keep hating him. And the only way we're going to get out of this is if he has some help from the United States. And I think for that, it's important to have regime change in the US as well.
So let's talk about how Argentina